Well, so in working with agents so often, like what do you see out there with regard
That's
to
a big
that?
problem. I think there's a lot of advice. I talk to a lot of sales directors in this industry right now, and the biggest challenge they have is their producers are good when they get referrals. It is so hard to find pure hunters these days. People wanting to go out and find their own business. It is a big challenge in the insurance industry right now.
Do a lot of people want them, like the agent, to go find business?
Yeah, so you have a lot of agencies today that hire a producer, right?
Yeah.
And let's face it, one of the reasons my business exists is there's a lack of training. There's a lack of good coaching in the industry. And I think a lot of agencies just hire a producer and it's almost like this, all right, go get them. And they want them to go find their own business, rely on their own network. And what they're finding out is this producer they've hired is really good if you give them a lead or give them a referral, but ask them to go find their own business. It's a challenge. There's not a lot of producers who have that drive and that discipline to go find their own business.
What do you feel about that? Because I'll tell you how I feel about that.
Yeah, go. I'd love to hear your perspective.
What business says, hey, I got this business. I'm not going to get leads or anything. I'm just going to, you go get the lead and then you close the lead. Like, that's like, why not just start your own, like no other industry does that, right?
Yes, but you understand marketing, my friend. Right. A lot of this insurance, I'm just going to say it, insurance, I think, is way behind the times on marketing. I agree with you.
Yeah.
What about on technology?
100%. A good agency, right? In 2023 should have a marketing strategy to be constantly providing good leads for producers to go close, but they're not. They're relying.
When did that happen?
Man, I don't know. I've seen it for a long time. I call it the traditional insurance two-step. I see the marketing strategy in this industry being buy a big list of leads. You have no idea if they're qualified or not, and then just hammer them with phone calls. Versus what can we do from a marketing perspective to create a lot of name recognition, a lot of brand recognition, but also create inbound leads for our producers.
That's the goal, right?
There's not a lot of that going on.
And what about the pipeline? Do you think that agents have an understanding of how many quotes they need to do? Like, so we're PNC, right? That's been our world, is the PNC world. I know that there's a lot of, healthcare and life agents and all that listening too, because it applies. But in the PNC world, the name of the game is quotes, right? We need quotes. And for many years, I had no understanding. It's interesting because the math is very simple, right? But for some reason, it's not something that everybody talks about or we figure out, or maybe because it's so obvious, you don't even put it together. But it's very easy to determine if I want to write X, I need to do Y, right?
100%.
Then you just fill it in.
100%. I was just talking to somebody over the weekend about this. Had I gone to college knowing I was going to get into insurance, right? Because very few of us got in this by design. I would have gotten 2 degrees. Finance, which I did, because you got to know numbers. And I would have gotten a psychology degree because understanding the buyer is so key. But going back to your point about the math, this is a game of math, isn't it? I mean, if you know your numbers to hit the certain level of revenue you want to hit for the year is going to require X number of wins, right? AORs. Just reverse engineer the math. Okay, so I need how many proposals then to generate that number of AORs? Cool. How many first meetings do I need to generate that number of proposals? And I tell producers at that point, throw away the sales number, the revenue number, throw away the proposal, and just focus on the number of intro meetings you need. Or whether your KPI is quotes, that is your KPI. Focus on nothing else.
How come?
How come?
Yeah, how come? Why? Why do we want to look at that?
I think because too many producers, in my opinion, every year, every January, they sit down and they create a big sales goal, right? And it's usually a revenue number, $250,000, $300,000, $500,000. Let's be honest, most of them do not have a plan of attack to get there. They just set a big number, and then the whole year they sit there and they stare at that number.
Right.
And they, after about 3 months, they start getting nervous. If they would just say, hey, I know that if I get 30 quotes this year or 50 quotes this year, I'm going to hit that number. And all I do is I focus on that 30 or that 50. I think it makes the goal definitely more palatable and more realistic. And as long as they pair it with an actual plan of action to get to those 30 quotes, it's going to happen.
It's like they're only focused on the result, but not the steps it requires to get
What
there.
Do they call that? The leading indicators versus the lagging? Yeah, they're focused on the lagging without saying, wait, but what are the leading indicators to get there?
Because of the reoccurring revenue and we have retention, like one of the only industries that we can actually not have some sort of way of acquiring business, because that is so important that we can actually not have that in place and still have a business. Most of the time, if you don't have a way to get sales, you don't have a business.
Thank you.
So
I would hug you if I could right now, because I need more agencies to hear that.
You know what I think, and this is my opinion, and I'd like your take on it, is I think that there are a lot of agents out there, and this is not going to be a popular comment, Oh no.
Oh no.
Automatically losing viewers or whatever. But like, they're just employees. They're not business owners. And it's like time to like take off. It's time to put on the big boy pants and become the business owner and realize that, dude, if you want to like double your income, take out half your income this year, put it into marketing and make it happen.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. If we got more producers to think like entrepreneurs, they'd do much better. You're running your own business. It might just be under somebody else's roof, but you're running your own business. And what you just said, if you go into most agencies today, and what's the rule of thumb? 10% of your revenue should be spent on marketing. Most of them are probably spending 2 or 3%. And most producers, here's where I think the problem starts.
And that when 10% I think is low.
And I agree.
Yeah.
But I think another problem that's been created in the industry, and I was a recipient of this at one time when I was a producer, is a lot of these producers get hired with these huge salaries, 2-year guarantees. So they come out of the gate comfortable. They might even be handed a book of business. So to your point, because we're an industry that is so recurring revenue rich, you have producers getting hired, and I put air quotes around producers because let's be honest, they're not really a producer. They're coming day one, they're comfortable with a salary and some business revenue coming in from existing business they were handed. How are you going to incent that producer to go out and build a great book of business? It's difficult if they don't have the drive or the discipline.
Right. Because there's no pain.
There's no pain. There's no pain from day one.
Well, yeah, look at it. Where's the pain? The pain is doing work. So, hey, over here, I'm making money. I don't care.
Yep.
Right. I mean, that's not everybody, but if you're not entrepreneurial, seems like.
I have a friend of mine who runs an agency in Indiana, and I love how he views it. He says, when I hire producers, Andy, I view them as entrepreneurs right now. They don't own their business. I do, but they're entrepreneurs. And if someday they came to me and said, hey, thank you for what you've done for me, I'm now going to go start my own agency. He's like, I couldn't be prouder of them.